Hello and thank you for joining us on the news on NTA International. I am Charles Alpha. Our sign language interpreter is Shegun Ajayi. But first, the headlines. President Tinubu tasked media practitioners to be factual to foster peace and development in Nigeria. Ministry of Agriculture to adopt home a garden competition as part of government programs. And U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris promises peaceful transfer of power to President-elect. President Bola Tinubu has advised media practitioners to be factual, truthful, and patriotic in the discharge of their duties to foster peace and development in Nigeria. The president, represented by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, gave the advice at the 20th Guild of Editors Conference in Yanagwa, Bayelsa State. Idris Akumoye reports.
The conference, which had in attendance veteran journalists and editors, is geared towards addressing the challenges in the media industry and charts a common front in surmounting them. President Bola Tinubu, represented by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, said the media has played a pivotal role in shaping Nigeria's democracy and development. The president said his administration, through his renewed hope agenda, has initiated interventions and reforms to cushion the present economic realities. He called on the media to report to foster peaceful coexistence as the present administration is working hard to reduce the suffering of Nigerians.
The government, of course, is desirous of ensuring that every member of the media gets the benefit of this democracy. What do I mean by that? Enhanced pay, enhanced working condition, enhanced tools of operation. We're working on all aspects of that, and as soon as they mature, the media will also be available of that information.
Governor of Bayelsa State, Doye Diri, said the media serve as a beacon of hope for the country's development. The governor decried the level of environmental degradation and neglect in the Niger Delta region arising from oil exploration and exploitation, calling for a comprehensive reform in their location.
This meeting will also, I believe, enable you to uphold the tenets of your very noble profession. The significance of the media in every democratic governance has been recognized as far back as the 17th century.
President of Nigerian Guild of Editors, Eze Anamba, said the media, as a watchdog of society, had its own challenges of adopting to modern trends of journalism. The Guild president called for intervention by government to sustain production by the media industry.
As editors, we are not only stewards of information and truth, but also stakeholders in our nation's development. We are here because we recognize the critical role that both a strong economy and a resilient media sector play in fostering a prosperous, informed, and democratic society.
The fallout of the conference is expected to rekindle innovation and growth in the media industry. In Yenagoa, Doris Akumoye, NTA News.
The 7 newly appointed ministers have been urged to uphold a high level of patriotism, dedication and diligence towards the actualization of the broad vision of the current administration for the country and its people. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, at an induction retreat for the new ministers, encouraged them to shun personal, ethnic and sectional interests to uphold national cohesion that will promote peace, for national unity and development. Kenneth Nanim reports.
For the current administration to deliver good governance to Nigerians as promised, much lies on the shoulders of the appointees. With this in mind, the new ministers are settling down to hit the ground running. Here they are getting themselves well acquainted with the development plans and strategies already charted for adequate implementation of the 8 priority areas in line with the renewed hope agenda of the federal government.
The primary purpose of this retreat is to foster a deep understanding of the operational principles challenges and expectations that define your responsibilities as ministers.
Entrusted with the mandate of driving the agenda for development, stability and growth in their sectors, they also need to be well equipped with the insights and guidance necessary for effective performance in the federal government's priority and aspirations.
And they should avoid any semblance of affluence and quest for material things. That way, if they operate on these tenets, they will come out fine and they will be able to deliver.
We have our national security, which is core. We have our food security. Our agriculture is important. Our power sector is core to enabling industrialization. We have priorities among priorities, but indeed, all those 8 priorities are core to Mr. President in ensuring he meets the renewed hope agenda.
There is also the need for the new ministers to understand their roles and align with the goals of the administration to navigate the regulatory frameworks, finance and procurement processes.
Data is very important. Once we have data, we have geospatial distribution of poverty. We can share this data with the state government, with local government, with the private sector, international partners, so that individuals also can intervene. Intervention must be holistic.
They are also expected to promote a culture of integrity within their ministries, as well as uphold the highest standards of ethics and accountability. Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
Attracted by the numerous potential of renewed hope initiatives, agricultural support programs, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security says it is set to adopt and operate some of the interventions, particularly Every Home a Garden competition, as government programs. Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, stated this after attending the 2024 fourth quarterly meeting of Renewed Hope Initiatives state coordinators with Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, in the Villa. State House correspondent Adeni Taiwo has the details.
The last time state coordinators of Renewed Hope Initiative met with the national coordinator and Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, was in July this year. The intervening period saw many wins for the initiative, with the implementation of key programs, including the launch of the Young Farmers Club, empowerment of petty traders across the country, and the unveiling of the National Unity Fabric. The quarter also saw the passing of Akwa Ibom State First Lady, Patience Eno. Rest in perfect peace. Her daughter, Helene Eno, is taking her place at the table as the coordinator for the state. Encouraged by its big wins in the agricultural sector, where the Young Farmers Club was launched and the Every Home a Garden competition was unveiled, the First Lady says it is time for women to also seize numerous business opportunities offered by RHI interventions.
We want people, women now, to go into business, even selling national fabrics. Because if people receive one and it's worn out, they want to buy again. That is an open door for business. We gave them the 2 companies, and they are indigenous companies in Nigeria. It's going to create jobs, it's going to create, add money into the economy. And that's the way I see that. If you look at the Every Home a Garden, it will amaze you how many people are being inspired to have their own garden. So this is what I'm doing, just to have people to do what I do.
She says RHI, as a non-governmental organization, has continued to attract funding and other resources from well-meaning Nigerians.
Because like the food bank we are doing, we have 2 companies. That was the people we started with. They give us a truckload of food, and Mrs. Shetima is handling that. We go from state to state. We also have covered about maybe 7 states. To cover the 36 states, if it is 1 truck per state, so within under 2 years, we should be able to finish.
Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, who joins the meeting, says the ministry is betting big on the agricultural support programs of RHI to promote farming in states.
Every home, for example, represents a secure location as much as possible. So when you have some small farming taking place there, whatever is produced there, is secure. So when you encourage that and you are having millions of Nigerians having that, I think we're contributing to sustainable food security. So as a ministry, we are not just, this is not a one-off. We see this as an opportunity, And we are taking this opportunity hands-on. We are going to make sure it's institutionalized. We are mainstreaming it into our operations. I'm basically here to speak to the first ladies of the various states who are here in a meeting with her to tell them exactly what we intend to do and how we're going to go about it. We have a budget line, but based on what we have come out with now, haven't done all the processes and whatever, definitely it will be about 68 million that will be going to them for the various components. So, and when we are sending it, we'll be sending along with a schedule that will tell them for the first one, the women empowerment, training and women empowerment, whatever the amount is, for the young farmers, whatever is there, for the Every Home a Garden, and then the Young Farmers Club.
He adds that the state governments are all expected to have desk officers in their various states to enhance the implementation of the program. In the State House, Adeni Itaiwo, NTA News.
The head of service of the Federation, Didi Elsa Wilson-Jack, says the success of the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu's administration is hinged on the critical role of the civil service and its ability to plan, implement and monitor government initiatives effectively and efficiently. Wilson-Jack stated this at the meeting of National Council of Establishment held at Ede, Osun State. Femi Afariogun has the report.
At the 46th National Council on Establishment, policymakers, civil service leaders, and stakeholders from across the country gathered to shape the country's public service. The meeting will be the first for the head of service of the Federation, Didi Esther Wilson-Jack, and she emphasized the council's role in steering reforms aimed at creating more responsive and adaptable public service.
To the esteemed heads of service, I urge you to champion a culture where innovation and actionable ideas flow freely and inclusively, impacting every level of our service. This spirit of innovation should cascade from the senior staff down to junior staff who carry out our day-to-day operations with dedication.
Osun State Deputy Governor Prince Kola Adewusi emphasized the important role civil servants play in implementation of government policies.
I have always held the public service in high esteem and view technocrats as partners in the ways of progress of this administration.
I commend the dedication of all stakeholders in advancing the framework and policies that guide our esteemed civil service.
As the Council continues its sessions, the discussions are expected to further outline practical steps for implementing initiatives that will ensure effective civil service in all states of the Federation. From Ede in Osun State, Femi Afariogun, NTA News.
Now, access to health services must be a top priority as stakeholders work together to deliver on the renewed hope agenda of the present administration. These were the words of the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Mohammed Ali Pate, at the maiden edition of the Joint Annual Review in Abuja. Basit Taikwan reports that the meeting brought together stakeholders, development partners within and outside Nigeria under one roof, with improved health outcomes in Nigeria as the focus.
One health, one people, one goal is the focus of the Joint Annual Review under the sector-wide approach to tackle with one voice the challenges facing the nation's health sector.
Joint Annual Review is a vital instrument for health sector stakeholders to assess program performance, evaluate resource distribution, and review outcomes or issues that need to be addressed to improve performance.
We want you to hold us and your state governments and local governments accountable for providing improved quality health services and basic services that we need as a people to create a healthier nation.
Agreed on the power of data as the cornerstones to driving improved health outcomes, while accountability and transparency would measure such outcomes as well as address challenges and successes, stressing that it would give stakeholders in the nation's health system the best line to appraise the compact endorsed by all
as a new way of doing the health sector business.
We acknowledge this unique opportunity to use this event as a means to become really serious about the Lusaka Agenda for Action 2023. And the first one is to make stronger contribution to primary health care by effectively strengthening the system. And the Global Health Initiative have committed to effectively support the integrated service delivery aligned beyond one plan, one budget, one report, and one conversation.
This, they noted, would ensure the president's renewed hope aspiration of providing prompt, affordable, and sustainable health care to all Nigerians. Basi Taipa, NTA News.
You're still watching the news on NTA International. We'll be back with more reports. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Without peace, it will be impossible to amicably resolve the myriad of interstate boundaries disputes across the country. Director General of the Nigerian Boundary Commission, Adamu Adaji, emphasized this in Abuja at a forum to advance conversations among stakeholders on the Biya and Akwa Ibom boundary dispute. Calvin Ehunaye reports.
The Biya-Akwa Ibom interstate boundary spans hundreds of kilometers at the Ini local government in Akwa Ibom and Ikoano local government in Abia State. It is one of the most volatile boundaries with several crises in the past, which resulted in the suspension of work in the tracing and fieldwork by officials of the NBC since 2014. Following breakthrough in talks brokered by the NBC, the groundwork for continuation of the tracing have been laid. This meeting, attended by delegations from both states, is to further advance discussion and iron out contentious areas to enable the tracing and other activities to go on unhindered.
It is not intended for us to sit down and resolve the boundary problem. It's for us to sit down, look at the issues, identify and agree that yes, there are issues that need to be sorted out, and jointly agree on the path to follow towards fast-tracking the resolution process.
Recommendations emanating from these stakeholders' engagement are expected to guide the NBC in resolving the dispute to foster lasting peace and development in the boundary communities. In Abuja, Kelvin Ebodwaye, NTA News.
In other news, U.S. Vice President and defeated Democratic candidate Kamala Harris has promised a peaceful transfer of power to Donald Trump while delivering her concession speech, delivering the speech at her alma mater, Howard University in Washington, D.C. Also urged her supporters to keep fighting for their ideas despite the bitter disappointment. She said they must accept the results of the election, adding that she had spoken with President-elect and congratulated him on his victory. She noted that they owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States, and loyalty to their conscience and to God. Meanwhile, at a press briefing in Washington, D.C., officials from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe praised the United States presidential elections. Pierre Koma, member of the Finnish Parliament, said the elections demonstrated the resilience of the country's democratic institutions, despite the highly polarized environment across the United States. Now, supporters of Cameroonian President Paul Biya are celebrating his 42 years in power with rallies, special broadcasts, and calls for an 8th term in office. Comfort Fashion reports.
For 2 weeks after the 91-year-old leader returned to the country after a 6-week absence, amid rife speculations about his health, members of the president's party face calls to show their ardent support. Published late last month as part of the preparations, the supporters praised Biya's fantastic record and called for an end to malicious speculations and predictions surrounding the leader who took the helm in 1982 on the resignation of Amadou Ahidjo. While celebrating the president's 42nd years in power with rallies and events in the capital Yaoundé, Cameroon People's Democratic Movement's leader, John Nkwete, urged in a letter to party members that the Cameroonian people are the people who respect age and elders. He calls on the people to back another term next October 2025 for one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. However, in keeping with his customary silence on the matter, Biya has given no indication of his intentions, nor has he named a successor. The subject of who will replace him remains a taboo. Comfort, Fashion, NTA News.
Comfort Fashion also reports that Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has vowed to ban children under 16 years old from social media, saying the pervasive influence of platforms like Facebook and TikTok is doing real harm to children.
Australia is among the vanguard of nations trying to clean up social media, and the proposed age limit would be among the world's strictest measures aimed at children.
Social media is doing harm to our kids, and I'm calling time on it. I've spoken to thousands of parents, grandparents, aunties and uncles. They, like me, are worried sick about the safety of our kids online. And I want Australian parents and families to know that the government has your back.
The Prime Minister vows to crack down on tech giants failing to protect vulnerable users. He reiterated that the tech giants will be held responsible for enforcing the age limit and face hefty fines if regulators notice young users slipping through the cracks. The new laws will be presented to state and territory leaders this week before being introduced to Parliament in late November. And once passed, the tech platforms will be given a one-year grace period to figure out how to implement and enforce the ban. Meanwhile, Australia is not the first, as several other countries have been tightening children's access to social media platforms. Spain passed a law in June banning social media access to under-16s. And in the U.S. state of Florida, children under the age of 14 will be banned from opening social media accounts under a new law, which is due to come into force in January. France has also passed laws in 2023 that require social media platforms to verify users' ages and obtain parental consent if they are younger than 15. China has restricted access for minors since 2021, with under 14s not allowed to spend more than 40 minutes a day on Douyin. That's the Chinese version of TikTok. And online gaming time for children is also limited in China. Comfort, Fashion, NTA News.
And back home in Nigeria, 80 more communities in Kogi State are to benefit from the Community Revolving Fund of the federal government Agrisol project, which has the sole objective of empowering and lifting more women and their households from poverty. The implementation support mission to Kogi State on Agrisol also inspected the Omibo erosion control project in the area. This is a 14-kilometer channelization and reclamation work covering Gully 1, 2, and 3, believed to have claimed lives, destroyed residential buildings and means of livelihoods of people living along the gully erosion lines. But this intervention by the federal government Agrisol project, supported by the World Bank and the Kogi State government, is providing relief while also restoring hope again to the people of the area. Pastor Samuel Olorife is one of those who narrated to NTA their ordeal prior to the intervention. For him, the gully had cut off members from attending services before this channelization work by Agrisol.
I could still remember about 2 or 3 years ago, along this side, if you see, there's no vehicle cannot pass, vehicle cannot come because of the water.
The drainage you are constructing, I can see a positive change. It's good, better than before.
The existing or the former drainage is not as high as this. And the volume of water coming from the upper area, by the time it gets to this place, it displays. I know by the end of this
projects, at least we will laugh last.
What is happening is to see how to restore the degraded land and also heal the gully through not just concrete work, but using bioremediation.
I must commend His Excellency, the Governor of Kogi State, Alhaji Usman Ahmed Ododo, for the good work he's doing, especially the gully rehabilitation.
Acrisol and World Bank, in a bid to lift more women from poverty, invested huge amounts of money in women in the area through the Community Revolving Fund initiative. And our check on Friday's weather prospect for Nigeria and other cities around the world. This is where we end the news. Many thanks for watching. I am Charles Alpha Shegwajai, has been our sign language interpreter.